Bishop John today. Wow, John 21. After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples at the Sea of Tiberias, and on this wise he showed himself. There were together Simon Peter and Thomas called Didymus, and Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, and the two sons of Zebedee, and the two other of his disciples. Simon Peter said to them, I go fishing. And they said, hey, we go with you also. They went forth and entered into a ship immediately, and that night they caught nothing. Now here's the thing. These guys probably had not been fishing for 3 years. That just blows me away. But it's actually appropriate, because even though Jesus is risen from the dead, they have absolutely no idea what's going on. What are they supposed to do? They were trained, they were called out of their life and trained to be disciples and to follow him everywhere he goes. And then this last week, a couple days ago, he told them, oh, sorry, where I'm going you can't follow. But I'll come and receive you to myself, that where I am you may be. Then he launched into a spiritual discussion that only a born-again believer can understand. And then he went and died on them. And then now he's risen from the dead, and they believe that, but they don't know what it means. They're still like, what in the world? And what does our life mean now? What are we supposed to be doing? They've received no instructions yet. At least in this narrative. Now, eventually they're going to be told to wait in Jerusalem until they're clothed with power from on high, and they'll be the witnesses. But this is before that. And they're not quite sure what's going on, so they just go back to what they know. And see, that's actually appropriate in times of dispensational change. A couple of years ago, before I got on YouTube, I was just so confused as to what was happening in my life, and what was happening in the world, and where were we, and what. Nothing is making sense. There's no church I can go to. There's no ministry. There's no one that I know who receives the truth or embraces it. There's no fellowship. Every time I've tried to plug in with Christians, it's been a disaster. What are we doing? And I kept getting this phrase that this is not the time to be clear. I kept getting this phrase, this is not the time to be clear. And I got the phrase that not only is this not the time to be clear, but beware of those who are clear. Anyone who's clear about what's going on is probably a false prophet. And it's still kind of like that. We are at a time of dispensational change where the Gentile branch is about to be cut off. And when that happens, all the people that are supposed to receive the truth for that particular dispensation start rejecting it. That's what happened when the reason Israel got cut off as a branch is because they rejected the truth that they were supposed to embrace, turned against it. Well, it's the same thing that's happening now. And Paul had told us that if the Gentiles don't continue in the goodness of God, they'll be cut off, and Israel will be grafted back in. They can't be grafted in until Israel's cut off. Gentiles are cut off, and Gentiles can't be cut off until the fullness of the Gentiles comes in. And along with that, there's an apostasy. Just as there was an apostasy in Israel at the time of that dispensational transfer, there's another apostasy going on today. And that is a time of confusion, not clarity. And it's interesting because during the time of apostasy, the ones who seem the most clear are the ones who are the apostates. You know, in Jesus' day, it was the Pharisees and the scribes who knew all the prophecies. And Herod's like, okay, where's he going to be born? You know, King of Israel. Oh, he's going to be in Bethlehem. All right, kill all the babies there. You know, their clarity was weaponized. And it's the same way today. The people who boast in being the most clear about prophecy, interesting, the ones who are, you know, crying out about how imminent the rapture is, are the ones who are weaponizing unity to come against those contending for the gospel. It's amazing. And themselves falling away to other things. And all you can do during this time is stand back and watch it unfold. And that's how the disciples were. There was nothing they could do. Jesus went where they could not follow him. He went into the death and resurrection. And now he's safely out of reach. There's nothing. I mean, they just look at each other and go, well, I guess I'm going fishing. See, that's the time to be quiet and just watch and wait and look to your own affairs. Doesn't mean you don't trust the Lord. It doesn't mean you're not in exciting times. It doesn't mean that things aren't changing, but there's nothing you can do to help it. I think that's the realization. There's nothing they can do. Jesus had transcended them and outstripped them. And if he was going to bring them into something, he was going to have to bring them into it. So they just go back to what they know, go fishing. And they caught nothing. So they also find that even if you go back to what you know, it's futility. And that, that's part of the deal too. During a time of dispensational transfer, everything stops. Everything is futile and nothing works. And that's okay. God is still taking care of you. And I do believe we're in a very similar time. And people are just trying to figure out what to do, It's like, we know Jesus is coming, but he hasn't come. What are we supposed to do? What we're supposed to do is wait on him and stay awake and keep enjoying him, okay? And that's what occupying really means. Sorry, it's not get busy and do some great thing. It is enjoy fellowship with the Lord. Because he's available. And he was available to the disciples here. He'd been appearing and disappearing, showing them that he was with them. But they didn't quite understand that yet. Okay? And now he shows up at the beach. All right? He says, when the morning was now come, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples didn't know it was Jesus. Then Jesus said to them, children, have you any meat? And they said, no. And he said unto them, cast your net on the right side of the ship, and you shall find it. And they cast it, therefore, and now they were not able to draw it for the multitude of the fishes. Well, now they know who it is. Therefore that disciple whom Jesus loved says unto Peter, it's the Lord. Now when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he girded his fisher's coat unto him, for he was naked. Maybe that's the way they did it. And did cast himself into the sea. And the other disciples came in a little ship, for they had not drawn far from land, about 200 cubits, dragging the net with the fishes. And when they came to the land, they saw a fire and coals on it, and fish laid thereon and bread. And he said, bring the fish which you caught. Simon Peter went up, drew the net unto the land, full of fishes, great fishes, 153. People say that's a significant number. Supposedly significant of the rapture, I don't know. Fullness of the Gentiles. And for all there were so many, yet the net was not broken. Jesus said to them, come and dine. None of the disciples dared ask him, who are they, knowing it was the Lord. Again, his appearance is probably disfigured. I think that Chuck Missler was on the money on that one. He's risen, but he kept the scars. This is now the third time that Jesus had showed himself to his disciples after that he was risen from the dead. So when they dined, Jesus said to Peter, that message last night in midstream because I kept yawning. And I'm yawning again this morning, but I'm going to try to finish it up. Reading it again, I'm realizing this is the third time that John records his appearing, Jesus appearing. The first time he appeared in the upper room and breathed on him and said, receive the Holy Spirit, which I said I believe they are regenerated. The next time he appeared and showed himself to Thomas Didymus, who didn't believe, and he said, touch my side, touch my wounds. And Thomas said, my Lord, my God. And he said, blessed are those who, having not seen, believe, which is good. And now they're fishing, and Jesus appears to them uh, as he had at the beginning, and they've kind of gone back to their life. Again, he's given them, now he did say, as the Father has sent me, I'm sending you. But still, there's no clarity on what that means, But now, he's appearing to them again, and he talks to Simon. Okay, so Simon was the one who led and said, oh my gosh. So Simon was the one who led and said, I'm going fishing. And Jesus singles him out. Now, Simon is devastated. He's denied the Lord. He's excited he's alive, but of everybody, he's probably a wreck. Or he is a wreck, So after they ate, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon Jonah, son of Jonah, he's calling him, he's not calling him Peter, he's calling him Simon. That's, the name according to the flesh. When God uses your name, like Jacob versus Israel, when he refers to Jacob, he's talking about the swindler, supplanter, heel grabber, wrestler, conniver, worm of a man. When he speaks of Israel, he's speaking of his prince who prevails. So it's significant whenever the Lord addresses someone, whether they're addressing them according to their carnal nature or their spirit, So Simon's basically in the flesh in a sense, He needs to be converted. And Simon says, Jesus says, do you love me more than these? And we know it's agape. I did a study on this a couple times. And he said, Lord, you know that I love thee, and there it's phileo, which means a brotherly love. In other words, no, I can't love you at the length that you're talking about. The love of God, which loves its enemies and endures to the end and hopes all things and believes all things. And no, I don't love you like that. I phileo you, which is I love you as long as I can understand what you're doing and your interests are compatible with mine, But it's an admission. No, because his whole time in Jesus' ministry, he had said, I'll follow you to the end. I'll lay my life down for you, right? Now he's having to admit, well, I denied the Lord, and I can't say that I love him. He said, do you love me more than these? Which is how he used to think of himself. I love you more than all of these. Now he's like, I barely even love you at all compared to what you're talking about. He says, feed my lambs. Now he's starting to give him instructions. He's gone back to a life of futility. Remember, Peter's the one who said that the Lord delivered us from the life of futility, from the traditions of our fathers. What was his tradition? Fishermen. That was a futility, proven by the fact that he didn't catch anything. When Jesus is around, he can't catch anything. Jesus subjects it to futility. Romans 8 talks about how we have the first fruits of the Spirit and we groan within ourselves, and it talks about how the creation was subject to futility because of hope. And it says that the Lord subjected it to futility. And that's how it could be. You can start to feel like, okay, I'm trying to go in a certain direction, and it's just not working. That's the Lord closing doors a lot of times. And he's doing that for these guys. He's saying, okay, no, you can't just go back to your life, okay? I do have something different for you. You don't understand it yet, but I've still got you. Feed my lambs. Now that he's contrasting feed my lambs with fishing. Fishing we associate with converting, winning the lost, right? Make you a fisher of men. But feeding lambs means they're already in the sheepfold. They're already the Lord's sheep, and they need food. And then he says again, Simon, son of Jonas, do you love me? Okay, maybe not love me more than these, but do you just love me? Agape still. Yes, Lord, you know I love thee, phileo. Feed my sheep. It's lambs and sheep. Not only do the new ones need feeding, but the full-grown need feeding. He says to Simon a third time, do you love me? And here it's phileo. Do you love me? And then it says, Peter, Oh, that's interesting. Hold on a second. It doesn't say Simon Peter. It says Peter. Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, "Lovest thou me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love thee, phileo." So yeah, I do love you, but it's not what I thought. Jesus said, "Feed my sheep. Verily I say to you, when you were young, you girded yourself and walked wherever you would. But when you are old, you will stretch forth your hands, and another will gird thee and carry thee where you would not." Now, here, I mean, that yes, it's signifying what death he would glorify God. We know that uh, Peter died as a martyr, but even more, or even as well. Gosh, I'm tired. I'm sorry. He's saying, look, you did what you wanted to do. You were self-willed. You said, "I'll follow you," but you found out you couldn't. You said, "I'll go fishing," and you found out that was futile. I'm telling you what to do. I'm girding you. I'm going to take you down a path that you wouldn't go naturally. You're going to be a shepherd of sheep. You were a fisher, and I told you you'd be a fisher of men, but now I'm revealing something even more. A shepherd of sheep. Because this, again, is the gospel to the church. And it reveals the good shepherd and God's building and God's habitation and the vine. So many things that are related only to the church that require a different kind of care than fishing. Okay, it's not just evangelism, it's shepherding and building up. Okay. Um, so there's a twofold meaning. Yes, uh, this is the way you're going to die, and I want you to follow me. On the other hand, I'm going to bring you into something about ministry that you wouldn't have understood before. Now that you're regenerated, you're going to learn what it means to feed on me. And as you learn, you're going to be able to shepherd others into the pasture. And I am the pasture, and I'm the food. I'm the good shepherd, but you're working with me. And as the Father sent me, I send you. See, this is a deeper aspect of sending. We see in Matthew 28, it talks about the Great Commission. And it's go and make disciples of all the nations. Okay, fine. This is shepherd the sheep, feed the lambs. And it's based on being comforted out of failure. This is 2 Corinthians, where in your weakness your natural man is torn down, your inner man is renewed at the same time, though. And then what the comforts you receive become your ministry for the church. It's a ministry of life. It's deeper than fishing. Shepherding is deeper than fishing. Then Peter, turning about, sees the disciple who Jesus loved following, and also leaned on the breast at supper. That's John. "Lord, which is he?" Oh, and said, "Lord, which is he that betrayed thee?" Peter, seeing him, said, "Lord, what shall this man do?" And Jesus said, "If I will that he tarries till I come, what is it to thee? Follow me." All right. Then went this saying abroad among the brethren, that the disciples should not die. So they all thought that meant he wouldn't die. Yet Jesus said unto him, "He shall not die, but if I will that he tarry till I come, what is it to thee?" This is the disciple which testifies of all these things and wrote these things. And we know his testimony is true. There's that testimony again. And there are also many other things that Jesus did, which if they could be written every one, I suppose that even the world would not contain all the books that would be written. Amen. It's a very sweet ending. This is the Great Commission for John, which is shepherd the sheep, feed the sheep. And it's a little different than evangelize the world. It's a lot different, actually. When it comes to evangelizing the world, it is about receiving the clothing of power, which comes on from on high, so that you be my witnesses to Judea, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the outermost parts of the earth, and there's signs following, because the signs are for the unbelievers, and the gospel's being preached, and that's dynamic. But then even more importantly, for the building up of the church, which really characterizes this age, there's feed my sheep. And that comes out of secret feelings of failure and weakness and being converted and seeing that the Lord has to be everything, and everything I do is subject to futility, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know what's going on, but the Lord, I'm distressed of even my life, I despair even of myself, but I'm learning to believe in Jesus Christ, who's raised from the dead, and somehow he's going to make a way for me. Shepherding comes out of that. It's a deeper experience, and it's a more hidden thing, but it's the reality of the church. And John, again, was the gospel for the church, and the Christ, providing Christ as the food, drink, and the nourishment, and the reality of the church. And John is a shepherding book. Okay, well, that's John. And I'm sorry I yawned so much today. I'm just so tired for some reason. Um, I'll merge these together and upload it, and that is the end of John. It's the best I could do. Take care.